on Australia's Business Channel. Welcome to In Business.
Thanks for joining us on In Business. I'm Richard Goncalves. Well, networking for any business can provide some serious cash opportunities. And with the expansion of social networking internet sites, the world has obviously become a lot smaller. But for businesses, doing some serious business networking is a bit harder, with security and privacy a big issue, as well as making sure you're networking online in a professional environment. ZaaBiz is a relatively new internet site seeking to meet that need, and its CEO, Michael Brecht, joins us now to tell us a bit more about it. Michael, thank you very much for your time. Give us an idea of what ZaaBiz is.
Well, ZaaBiz is a social networking platform, as you just rightly explained it. We are a social network for business people, and we've launched it here in Australia about 6 months ago, focusing on businesses in Australia and New Zealand.
So there is a need for it?
We saw a clear need for it. When I started the first talks to some of potential investors and angel investors last year at about this time, we identified a few needs for an Australian business platform itself. The main reason was that there might be the one or the other social platform that is aiming at the social market or at the private market, but no one really took care of businesses in Australia at that time, and so we saw a market niche for that.
So how did you actually come up with the idea?
Well, personally, my background is German, actually, and I moved here 4 years ago. I quickly learned that Australians are the perfect networkers, because there's hardly an event or a function where I meet some new people, business people basically, and don't come across someone that I know through someone already. That was the background to my
Is that because Australia's a lot smaller than the rest of the world?
It is smaller, it is very isolated, and I think Australians rely on very positive networking, firstly. Second reason for launching it here in Australia was that there was no one looking after that market itself.
How did you physically start the company?
Yeah, I basically came across that market need. I think a business should start only if there is a clear market need. And with that market need here in Australia, and I should add New Zealand as well, we quickly came into talks. We means a small team that I had gathered around me. And we talked to a few angel investors to actually define the plan and define the growth model for that business. I personally believe in the effect of having a team around me helps a lot. So I teamed up with a few online media specialists and a few IT people. They're not all based in Australia. That's the other advantage of being in the internet business world, because you can really team up with experts in the US and in Europe. And in particular with IT resources being a scarce resource in this country, it was quite helpful to actually have connections in Europe and in the US to actually draw them into the project and help them and make them help me for the beginning.
So you sourced money from outside investors at the time?
I sourced out money and basically took money and angel investors on board to help me with the Australian marketplace too.
You didn't find that as a challenge at the time?
Well, in particular, and as a new business, you have three options, I think, to start from a financial point of view. Either you go to a bank and try to put a mortgage on your house if you have a house. Number two is you could ask a venture capitalist. And number three is you talk to angel investors, and I clearly see that as a very important part. And we went down that road because I think an angel investor brings so much more than just money. They bring expertise in a specific field, they bring networks themselves, and they help you to grow without the pressure of a venture capitalist or a bank trying to get numbers on a weekly basis or a monthly basis.
So how did you find these angel investors?
That's an idea about networking. I think it really depends again on how you're networked in the country. They are from across the whole of Australia, and there's a European investor in there too. So.
For those businesses that are seeking capital, funding to grow their business or to get a business idea up and running, what kind of advice can you give them to make sure that they effectively find this money?
Again, that's a good question, because it's quite a tough time at the moment for a young starting business, and I can see that quite a few businesses these days that I come across in Sydney, in Melbourne, in Perth, actually find it hard to get fresh money. Some people even say if you need money now, you're kind of lost. I wouldn't go that far. I think it clearly depends again on how well you are linked or connected to your business angels or to the financial circuit yourself. And then it's a question of trust in your business model. It's a question of trust in you as a person and in your team, how you deliver.
Okay. In terms of setting up the website, you've given us a bit of a history of what you were doing. What kind of technical experience do you have?
Well, my background is not technical at all. I'm just a business person. I just happen to know a few technical people, and I've been working in this industry for a bit. So we try to build ZaaBiz the way how an Australian would look into a social networking platform, how an Australian business person looks into it. So we try to make it as Australian as possible. Our aim was also to make it easy, because I just do know quite a few business owners, in particular from the small business environment, that are very reluctant to actually enter information into websites these days. And therefore we wanted to make sure that we have a trusted environment which is easy to use.
You say you wanted to make the website as Australian as possible. What did you have to do to make it Australian? How different would it be to set it up in Australia than to set it up in somewhere in Europe, for example?
Well, firstly, we used Australian designers. Because I always believe in the effect that design has on a network or a business in total. So the Australian element came through the design of the platform. Secondly, we made the content Australian, certainly not with a European background, but more with an Australian English type of background. And today, while maintaining the platform and while running the platform, we employ an Australian community services team that actually asks and that responds to questions on the platform, and that responds to questions that come in by email to our business.
Michael, let's now talk about what kinds of people are actually using the site, or who are you targeting?
Our target group is clearly the Australian and the New Zealand market, where we find business owners of small businesses, medium-sized businesses, and within the big corporate world interested to join a platform that focuses on business needs. We usually differentiate between three types of members. The first one is probably a very passive member. They come on board, fill out their profile, and through the profile entries they can be found on the platform, and then start contacting and networking with others. The second one is the active one. They become a member to actually generate more contacts on the platform itself. And our third model is the integrated member. An integrated member understands ZaaBiz as an online world where to make new contacts and generate business through the platform. But they also join ZaaBiz at certain events. We have events in the major capital cities. We do team up with event providers that host events, and where we are kind of the online world to what happens in the real life.
In terms of privacy, though, you're putting all this information on a website, or the businessman is putting out information on the website. How do you secure privacy in terms of that information not being tapped by people that's not supposed to be tapped?
Well, firstly, the platform itself is closed, so you can only enter it as a member. You have to become a member, and through becoming a member, you actually sign the privacy tough privacy rules that we have and terms and conditions. So, for example, any kind of spamming or multi-level marketing is not possible on the site itself. Secondly, we have a community management team that looks after profiles. And the third element is actually that our community itself, the business community itself, is quite active in finding out if someone would do something unuseful on the platform, and they kind of give this information across quite easily. So there is a self-regulating aspect to that, and the security is there that the community regulates those things themselves.